All right, FundStrat's head of research, Tom Lee, who's gained a ton of popularity over the last few years because almost all of his calls about where stocks are going to go in the short and medium term have played out even when they sound outlandishly bullish. Recently, he's made a call about small caps, and he's called this summer of 2024 the summer of small caps. He believes that small caps are about to make a gargantuan move by the end of the summer, up as much as 40% within that time frame. And before we listen to him speak on this, I want to cover two things. One, a small cap stock is a company that has a market cap anywhere between $300 million and $2 billion. So that's the market cap size that we're looking at for what Tom Lee's talking about is going to have a 40% move. And then second, he's talking about generally an index is going to have a 40% move. And that index he's talking about is the Russell 2000. You can buy an index fund that tracks the Russell 2000, and there's two really popular ones. The most popular is IWM, the iShares Russell 2000 Index Fund, and then VTWO, that's Vanguard's Russell 2000 Index Fund. Vanguard's actually has a lower expense ratio if that's something that you like to look at. And then the second thing to keep in mind is that this is a short-term call that he's making. Typically on my channel, we talk about long-term trends, long-term investing. This is a short-term call that we're talking about. But when we talk about a 40% move within a few months or within a 10-week span, it's something to take notice of. So let's listen to Tom Lee talk about small caps this summer. Stick around for some commentary afterwards. Let's get into it.
I think that's what you saw last week is as probability shifted towards Trump, small caps, industrials, financials rallied.
And you're sticking with that call, which is for what, 40% over 10 weeks?
Yeah, the overlap is small caps are very sensitive to a Fed cut, and really the probability of a Fed cut, that it's finally happening. And I think it's going to look like the October to December 2023 rally, which was almost 30%. This one should be bigger because of the amount of short positioning and the amount of oversold in the Russell. So yeah, 40% by the end of the summer.
So there it is. Tom Lee says we're going to get a 40% rally in small caps, specifically the Russell 2000 index, within a 10-week span from right now. And he covered a few of the main catalysts that are going to get the Russell to make that crazy move. As the probability shifts to a Republican winning the presidential election this year, small caps are going to rally. As we get more inflation data that's coming in closer and closer to the twos, the more likely the Fed is going to cut, or they're going to talk about cutting. And just the Fed talking about cutting rates and the probability of a rate cut coming, that by itself is going to make small caps move up because the stock market is a forward-looking market. The market is looking out 6 to 12 months from now. So 6 to 12 months from now, if we start to get rate cuts and multiple rate cuts coming, this is going to eventually put small caps business fundamentals in a much better spot. But well before the business fundamentals get in a better spot, the stock price is going to move to reflect that. The market tries to front run the good news and front run the increased and strengthened fundamentals of a stock or of a sector. That's why we can see that big upward move happen sometimes before the fundamentals even look better, before they've even reported any improving numbers inside of their quarterly reports. And then the last two catalysts are very linked. One, that the Russell is oversold. I made a post on my Patreon about this recently, maybe 2 weeks back, and it's definitely playing out exactly how I thought it would. Large caps are certainly way overvalued in comparison to small caps and even mid caps. I think the opportunity is really in smalls and mids right now rather than large caps. That doesn't mean some large caps aren't going to have a really, really great year. Of course, large caps, mega caps, there are certain stocks and they're going to perform really, really well. But if we're looking at an index as a whole, I definitely think there's a strong probability that smalls and mids are going to outperform large and mega caps in the near term. And then the last is that the Russell itself and the components of the Russell are heavily shorted, which could lead to a potential squeeze situation in certain equities or potentially in the index. So I definitely agree with Tom Lee that we are due for some upside in the Russell. I'm not sure if 40% in 10 weeks is going to happen, but even if we get somewhat close to that, if we get 30% in 10 weeks, that's still a colossal move in the Russell. And remember, if the entire index moves 30%, some of the individual components, some of the individual equities would move way more than that. 40%, 50%, 60%, 100%, some of them would have to move in order to get the entire Russell to move up 30 or 40%. So there are some individual stocks out there that, if Tom Lee is right, are going to have absolutely ridiculous tears over the next 10 to 12 weeks. So am I selling my entire portfolio and going all in on IWM, which is the Russell 2000 Index Fund? Absolutely not. I have a lot of exposure to small cap stocks already, and I've seen seen them start to perform extremely well over the past few months, with my main four being The Honest Company, Upwork, Vital Farms, and Hims. And I have exposure to other small caps and smaller percent allocations. If I had no exposure to small caps, I would absolutely take some of my uninvested cash and put it into the IWM, because I do agree with Tom Lee's short-term prediction. I'm not a big short-term moves kind of guy, but like I said, if I had no exposure, I would definitely go ahead and put a little bit of my money into IWM. I wouldn't bet the farm. I wouldn't sell out of my stocks just to put my money into IWM. Rather, I like to own small caps. I like to own mid caps, large caps, mega caps, so that whenever one of these is outperforming, I'm going to be a beneficiary of it no matter what. If mega caps are killing it, I'm a beneficiary. If large caps are killing it, I'm a beneficiary because I own large caps. If mid caps are moving up, if small caps are moving up, etc., stocks I own have a very wide range of market cap, so that if one starts to outperform, I'm a beneficiary of it regardless. Make your own decisions, do your own research, but if you have no exposure whatsoever to small caps, it might be worth taking some of your uninvested cash that's already in your brokerage account and putting some of that into the IWM, which is the Russell 2000 Index Fund, assuming you agree with Tom Lee and that you see all the same things that he sees. My preferred method is to own quality small cap companies that you see performing well over the next multiple years. And if you get a time period where small caps are outperforming and those specific stocks are going up 30%, 40%, 50% in a year, or even way more than that. For example, Vital Farms over the last 6 months is up 160% already. And that doesn't account for the potential 40% move that we're about to have over the next 10 weeks. When you find a great stock that's already moving on fundamentals and then we get a macro event where all small caps are moving up, you're going to be rewarded extremely well and get some absolutely ridiculous gains in a scenario like that. Let me know in the comments below if you own any small caps. If you do, let me know the tickers. Let me know what stocks you're holding that are in that small cap category, 300 million to about $2 billion market cap. And while you're at it, let me know how you feel about Tom Lee's call. Do you think he's being way too bullish, or do you think this is actually going to play out over the next 10 weeks with the Russell 2000? I want to hear about it in the comments below. Definitely one of my favorite parts of posting here on YouTube is checking out your comments, having some conversation with you guys down there. I appreciate you being here in a major way. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day.